Now let's take a look at the Classwork page of Google Classroom. So we looked at the stream last time, and now we're looking at the classwork. And this is where, call this the place where all the action takes place in terms of homework and getting materials to students and getting materials and assignments back from students. You'll remember in the last video, I had a couple of posts that when I had the notifications turned on, they showed up in the stream. That's these 3 assignments. And then we turned those notifications off so that they wouldn't see those. And that's every time, if you have those notifications turned on, anytime you post here, those would show up in the stream. So this place here, if you do absolutely nothing to organize it, you will just get a big long list of different assignments here, and it will just keep on going down. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about organization here. So if we go to create, this is going to be where you make all of the stuff that goes on this classwork page. And in create, there are some different options. You probably shouldn't see this Cami assignment. That's something I have an extension, but you should see assignment, quiz assignment, question, material, reuse post, and topic. We'll cover each of those, but I would start off with topic. Topic is it's headers in Google Classroom. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but pretty traditional way is to just do it by unit. So I would start, say I'm doing unit 1, I do that, and then everything that I have in unit 1 would get posted in here. And then when we move to unit 2, I would make a new one for unit 2, and so on. So that would be a very classic way to do it. And the nice thing is you can actually schedule and everything, and students don't see things unless there's active there. So even if I made all of my topics for the year, until I actually post something and make it live, the students don't see it. They only see things once there's actually active work in it. Another very useful topic to have would be the a resources topic. And I like to have that, and you can move these around by just dragging them. So if you like things in different order, resource would be a good place to put like just year-long things like your syllabus, if you have one of that, anything that's just not just one unit kind of thing, but across the unit, something that they'll always want to reference. Maybe it's neat articles or things like that, things that span more than one unit. Maybe I put in a resources section. And so let's just say, I'm going to get rid of this one for now. We just have unit 1. We're starting out the year, and we have some assignments. So all of these and all this stuff drags and drops, which is nice. But these would be the assignments that are in unit 1. So students could go in and click on them as they need to. This is the most simple way to lay out Google Classroom, and probably the way most people do it. You'll see along the side here, you've got essentially a table of contents. So as this grows longer, say unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, they'll all get shuffled down this on the Classwork page, but you can always go and find the stuff that's in that by just clicking on that topic. So here we've got unit 1, there's the stuff for unit 1, and then all topics. This is where I usually stay. But this is one way to organize it. Some people organize it. Again, this is the way I would recommend for beginner to do it. But if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, or this way just doesn't fit how you teach, some people go by week. So like week 1, and maybe you do per term or something like that, and you do week or week of 9 of 5/23 through 5/27, and that's it. And then all the stuff for that week goes in here, and you go week by week. That's a way some people do it. Another way that some people do it, and this is how I do it. Again, I use units. I go by unit, but then I also have a topic called things to do. And that's actually always at the top. And I will then put all of their assignments, things that are ongoing, in that things to do. And then once I grade them, which you can do in here, which we'll get to a different time, but once they're graded and they're all finished, then I move them down into here when they're done. That way I get a very visual, these are the things I need to grade, these are the things that I need to go through yet, as well as the students, they just go to this things to do tab or section here, and that's just where if there's things there, then they know that they have to do it. Essentially the units underneath it, those would just end up being the archive of all the things that had been done. It just really makes it where the students can zero in on a smaller section. So this is my favorite model. It does involve a little bit more moving of things around, right? So every time you grade something, you just got to drag it down. But I think it works very, very slick for the students. But if you're looking for the most bare bones but pretty well organized, I would just go unit by unit. All right, so if we had just this unit and we wanted to post some stuff, let me just show you the different things that we could post. So if we go create, the most classic one is just the assignment here. And that's the 3 samples I made previously, just used this. So you go in here, and this is, when somebody talks of a Google Classroom assignment, this is what they're talking about. You can title it, and then this is where you put the instructions, do X, turn in X, then X, right? And you can do bullet points, you can format it, all that stuff. You can attach Google Drive stuff. So anything from Google Drive can get attached here, which I just want to show you something important for Google Drive if you were to attach something for Google Drive. So let's just say I attached, let's see, this Google Doc here. So this Google Doc, if I were to attach this Google Doc, essentially a worksheet for them, I can go over here and make some choices. And these are important. It defaults to student can view file, which is what most of the time you want. So that just gives them essentially a copy they can view, they can print it, but they can't edit it. If you want them to be able to change it, you can do edit file. Now do realize that is one file, so all of the students would be editing one file. So if you wanted to give them a big collaborative group thing, they're all working on the same document, that would be a nice option. However, if you want them to each have their own template to edit, so that just students can edit, they're editing that original file and they're all working on the same one. If you want to use essentially the worksheet as a template and they all edit their own, you'll do this make a copy for each student. And then each student would get a copy, a template, a copy of this document, and then they could edit their copy without it affecting your original one. So those are 3 important different things if you attach Google Docs or Google Slides or any of those types of things. Here you can upload files, Microsoft files, things like that. You can add links, you can add YouTube videos, and then a whole bunch of other things that you can make directly in here if you want. You can either import them from Google Drive, or if you want to, you can create them in Google Classroom. My only warning with doing this is it starts making your Google Drive a lot less organized if you make them directly in Google Classroom. But that's up to you. I would not suggest that. I would suggest having it organized in Google Drive so that you can find them later in different years. If you make them in Google Classroom, they get hidden in your Google Drive and it becomes harder to find them later. So then off to the right, this is where you can then pick, remember we made grade categories. So if this is just homework, I can click homework. And again, that auto points I selected is picked there. If it's an assessment, that shows up. And that just tells the students, they get to see that. It tells them what type of homework or type of assignment it is. And if you want a different grade point, say this is not a 10 point, you can change it to 15 points. If you don't intend to grade it on Google Classroom, a great option is just click ungraded, and then you don't grade it in Google Classroom, whether or not you grade it a physical copy and you just don't put the grades in here, that is an option too, is just to click ungraded. That way you don't have to put in grades in Google Classroom. But I usually put in a grade. That way students know how many points it's worth. Due date, this you can select when it's due. So say it's going to be due on the 31st. You can also select a time if you wish. Topic, this is where you can put it in whatever, say it's Unit 1, I put it in there. Rubric, we're not going to talk about that right now, or this check plagiarism. Those are some more advanced features we can talk about a different time. If we want to do multiple classes, post this to multiple classes. So say you have multiple cults classes that you want to post it to. If you were to select those, again, you can either go assign, and it would assign it to those classes. It wouldn't be scheduled. They would just immediately show up. Or if I wanted to schedule, I could click this caret, click schedule, and then I could schedule date and time and those topics, or in due date, those topics, I click schedule. I would not do this copy settings to all. But if you're just doing one class, again, you just do this. Another nice option is it is default all students, but if you wanted to make an assignment, say you need somebody to make something up, or just something to help some struggling students, you can assign things to just specific students if you wish. So that is nice too. You can have that power to select just select students if you wish. So let's just assign this and we'll see it show up. And because I selected the Unit 1, it shows up here in Unit 1 there. So again, if you want to reorder them, so that they're in order, there we go. So that was just an assignment. Again, you don't have Kami assignment. Quiz assignment, I don't ever use this one because, again, I'm not huge in creating Google products or Google things within Google Classroom, because it makes it harder to find them later if I want to reuse them. But if I chose this quiz, it would automatically give me a Google form here that I could go and click on it and make a quiz, and it's already attached and all of that stuff. So that is an option. I'm not huge on it. You can do the same thing if by just making an assignment and attaching a Google form that you have made outside of Google Classroom. That way it's organized in your Google Drive nicely. But one thing I would point out while we're looking at it, so if I was to make a quiz assignment, is this locked mode on Chromebooks. If you ever do a Google form quiz, which we can talk about more how to do that a different time, but this locked mode, if you have that on, it makes it so students can't leave that quiz to cheat. So they have to stay in that quiz until they're done. So that's a very important feature if you ever do any Google form quizzes. So I would not touch that probably. I would just make an assignment and attach a Google form that you made outside of Google Classroom. Question. This here is actually a really handy assignment format. I didn't use it a whole lot at first because I didn't really realize what it did, but it allows you to ask the students a question and get responses to them. So maybe you just want to ask them to, summarize chapter 6 of the book. It says question, doesn't always have to be phrased as a question, but then you just have please answer this Google Classroom question with your summary of the chapter. There is a dialog box to type your answer in. So this, what it ended up giving the students is when they open it up, there's a dialog box that they can type in. So this just allows you to get a bunch of responses from the students directly without having to open up any other Google Forms or anything like that. And you can still attach all of the same things. The only thing it doesn't allow is students can't attach their own things. So they are just doing typed responses here. But again, we have all the same options here. We can choose, homework. We can do a due date on that, and we can also put a topic here. Let's put it in Unit 1 again. Now, here's a couple settings. I usually turn on can edit their answer. It just allows students, if they run out of time, they can come back, they can save it, they can submit it, and they can then come back and edit their answer later. I usually leave the students can reply to each other off, unless you want to have it like a discussion kind of thing, which sort of works. I've not found it as super well for like an online discussion board, but this is usually the settings I have. Students can edit and they can't reply to each other. I just see their results. So I ask it, and then they could go on and submit their answer to it without having to attach a Google Doc with their answer or any other things. They could just submit their answer right there for that. So that's a useful thing. There's a lot of ways that can be used well. So do keep that one in mind. And you'll see here I made that a homework assignment. So they'll see this little homework note here. So that's one nice thing about having those homework, the different types of assignments listed out in the settings, which we did up in this settings gear. Then we have material. So material, this is one of my favorite things in Google Classroom. When Google Classroom first came out, they didn't have this, and myself and a whole bunch of people asked Google to add this, and several years ago they did, and it made me very happy. So this essentially allows you to post things that are not assignments, things for students to be able to view. So let's just say my syllabus. So I want to give them the syllabus that they can reference throughout the year if they need it. Attached is the syllabus, right? So then I could go and I could attach the syllabus, and I could then take and attach my syllabus. There we go. And let's just say that was my syllabus. I attached my syllabus, and you'll notice there's no assignments or anything like that for me to put points or anything, but I want to put this in, let's put it in my resources section, and I post it. And now students would be able to, whenever they want, go here and they could view my syllabus. This is very handy for notes. So any notes I have, you could put PDF of your notes, or if you do it on Google Slides, you could post the Google Slides or videos of your notes. Whatever it may be, you could post that material notes on lesson 1. And you could then go to here, attach it. You could go, and if it was a YouTube video, you could go and add that. You could then go and post that for them, and then if they ever needed to go back and review it, they were sick for the day, you could go and they could just go on there and view your notes. So that's a very handy option, and it doesn't bug them that they have an assignment to do. It's just a material. It's just something that they can go back and reference. That's one of my favorite things. I post all sorts of resources for the students that are just, hey, here it is. You can use it if they need it. But as you can see here, if you didn't have these topics, you start getting this looking very cluttered in a real hurry. Then last off, we have the reuse post. So reuse post, this is really nice, especially if you've had years down the road, you've made something, you're like, oh, I made this assignment last year. You can even go back to, so here's all my current classes, but I can go and view all my archived classes from last year and say, this is one of my Spanish 1s from last year. I want to pull up something from last year. Oh, here's my second semester exam. Oh, let's go with, I wanted to bring up this, let's just say this blank charts material. And I go reuse that, and all of the attachments, my directions, everything, I just want to make sure that everything looks good. Here we're going to put this in resources because that's where I wanted it. Or if If it's not there, you can actually create topics right within here. So let's just go, this is second semester exams, and post. Now I have made that new topic, and I have that within it. Again, like with anything in the stream, any of these things that you make, you can go and post to multiple classes or schedule for multiple classes just by going up here and selecting what classes you would like, and then either assign or you can go and schedule. That's a very nice feature that you have, as well as you can always, if it's not to multiple classes, you can go and give it to just certain students by going up here and changing the students. Again, I don't have any active students, but you could go and, if you had students, deselect the all and select the students that you actually want. So that is the main different pieces of things you can add to the classwork. Students then would go on this and they could see their assignments and they would go in and turn them in.